Hello, and thank you for joining us today for this Edward Jones webinar, Key Lessons from Today's Retirees. My name is Sandy Miller, and I'm excited to have three industry professionals on our panel today, and I'm going to introduce them in just a minute. But before we get going, let me highlight a few of the features on your screen that we'll be using. On your screen right now, you should already see a video window with me inside. There should be another window with our presentation slides, and a third window for our Q&A feature. If for some reason you have any difficulty during the program, you can click on the help icon at the bottom of your screen. That's the black question mark inside the yellow circle. This is for any technical questions you may have. We also have a team on standby ready to assist you if at any time during our discussion you have a question or would like clarification on a point. Just click on the Q&A icon, which is the third button from the left at the bottom of your screen. That will allow you to send in questions. We'll do our best to answer your questions in the allotted time we're given. But if your question is not answered, please follow up with your Edward Jones Financial Advisor. If you don't have an Edward Jones Financial Advisor, click on the Find an FA widget below. We also have a lot of helpful resources and information available for you inside the Resources icon, which is located next to the Q&A icon. All right, now that you know your way around, let's get started. Retirement is a new chapter in life, and expectations for this period of time are shifting. Today, we brought together industry professionals to lay out lessons from current retirees and actions you can take that may help you better prepare for and thrive in retirement. I'd like to introduce Edward Jones, Senior Retirement Strategist in Client Needs Research, Catherine Tierney, Edward Jones Financial Advisor, Mary Charles Nassif, and Hartford Funds Senior Vice President of Applied Insights, John Deal, and welcome everyone. Catherine, I'm going to start with you. How did Edward Jones gather this information? Is it anecdotal?
No, it's not anecdotal. The lessons we're highlighting today are based on research and insights from a series of studies we conducted over the past 3 years in partnership with AgeWave, a thought leader on aging and longevity. Across these studies, we surveyed more than 20,000 people throughout North America to explore people's hopes, dreams, and concerns in retirement, to understand how 5 generations and retirees in particular were faring amid the COVID-19 pandemic, and to explore how the journey of retirement unfolds, the patterns of people's experiences in retirement, and the keys to thriving along the way. John will also be sharing some insights from some of the amazing research he and his team at Hartford have been doing. John, you want to share a little bit about your team's research?
Sure. So my name is John Deal. I've been working with Hartford now for about 34 years, but the last 20 years of my career has been heading the research efforts with the Age Lab at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. The MIT Age Lab was formed in 1999 with the intent of studying changing demographics, the impact of technology, and changing lifestyles for generations to come. Now, probably my favorite part of working with the researchers at MIT is they don't just study financial services. They're working with a host of industries and companies, automotive, retail, healthcare, not just in the United States, but around the world. The lab is made up of about 40 researchers, not all engineers. Given that it's MIT, they're well represented, but a team of sociologists, physiologists, psychologists, I say a whole team of ologists, really looking at these demographic shifts and that impact of technology to help people better understand what they might expect and to help manufacturers and service providers design those products and services that as consumers, we will most desire in the future.
You know what? That's really interesting. And it's great to have this research back up our experience. Talk to me about the first lesson from today's retirees webinar participants should know, Catherine.
Sure. Two of the biggest factors that influence how much someone has at the start of retirement are how much you save each month and how long you save. So it's incredibly important to start saving for retirement as early as possible. Retirement might seem like a long ways off, but the retirees we surveyed wished in hindsight that they would have started saving for retirement nearly a decade earlier than they did. And given that your assets approximately double every 10 years at a 7% rate of return, a decade can have a very significant impact on how much you have for retirement. Now, if you haven't started saving yet, it's never too late to get started. In fact, here is an exact quote from a retiree we surveyed when asked about what advice they would give younger generations. But he said, save, save, and save. Start saving early and put away as much as you can. But if you haven't, know that it's never too late to start.
And one thing I would add, Catherine, is that the researchers at MIT tell us that kids that are graduating from college today can expect to have 2, maybe 3 careers during their lifetime. Not 2 or 3 jobs, 2 or 3 careers. And what we're seeing changing is the definition of retirement itself, because often we see work as something that is going to provide really meaningful experiences during retirement. So that retirement that we're saving for might not be for the retirement that we imagined 30, 40, 50 years ago, but today may allow us to provide a more flexible work arrangement, more flexible use of our time to pursue those things that we think are most important in life.
So Mary Charles, what are some actions that pre-retirees and retirees can take to make sure that they are saving early enough for this next chapter?
For pre-retirees, saving early and consistently can put you on a path toward achieving your retirement vision. Even if you're not certain what your vision is, don't delay with saving. Work towards saving 10 to 15% or even more of your income for retirement until you have a clearer picture of what retirement means to you. I can't emphasize it enough. Time is of the essence. For those in their 20s and 30s, you're just getting started in your careers, so you're potentially not even thinking about retirement, let alone what retirement might look like for you. And that's okay. The best thing you can do right now, if you're not already doing so, is to fund your employer's retirement plan, at least enough to get the full match. Also, work with a financial advisor to learn about and fund the different savings and investment buckets. And also, everyone's idea of what retirement looks like is different. For retirees, since you've already retired, you can share your wisdom and experience with others. Talk to your kids and your grandkids about the importance of saving early to help instill good financial habits in the next generation. Talk to them about how you funded your retirement lifestyle, whether it's a rest and relaxation type of lifestyle, or if you enjoy a work optional lifestyle, or maybe you've picked up some new hobbies. Remind them that it's a new chapter in life, not the end of life.
Yeah, those are some key steps to take. John, I know the survey found that there's no one-size-fits-all definition of retirement, and both you and Mary Charles mentioned it earlier. Can you expand a little more on what that means?
Sure, Sandy. So if you think about it, retirement is really a social construct. It's a way of behaving. It comes with certain expectations. And I think many people don't think about it, but today's concept of retirement was really invented in the 1950s and 1960s when we think about people such as Del Webb, who first constructed Sun City in Arizona as a retirement mecca, if you will. You know, when he opened his first development, nobody thought anyone would leave their families, travel halfway across the United States to live in a community like that. The very first day, I think they had a line of cars 4 miles long waiting to look at that community. And so the birth of the leisure retirement came upon us. But, you know, it wasn't always that way. In 1875, about 75% of men over age 64 were still fully employed in the workplace. In fact, at that time, being retired was one of the worst things that could happen to you. And so what we see is that expectations are changing. This idea of mission and purpose, maybe finding that mission and purpose in what I do in terms of work. You know, when we look at people who are currently working in retirement, I know it's an oxymoron, but working in retirement, why do people say they do it? Well, 88% say it's not for the money. It's because they want to stay active and involved. You know, the second most popular choice is people will tell us, well, they actually enjoy working. They like what they do. If they could just do it a little bit differently or maybe a little bit more flexibly. And then typically money comes in right around number 3 or 4 to say, hey, having an extra couple of bucks to spend isn't bad either. So it's, you know, thinking about how our retirement will be different than those that came before us is really something that we need to give considerable thought to.
That is so interesting. Catherine, what steps should pre-retirees and retirees take to come up with their definition of retirement?
For pre-retirees, the further you are from retirement, the cloudier your vision may be. But once you're within 10 years of your target retirement date, You'll want to really reflect on what you want out of retirement so that you can outline your specific vision and develop a personalized savings goal. You'll want to consider things like when you want to retire, of course, but where you want to live in retirement, your desired lifestyle, and how you want to spend your time. That last one is often overlooked when retirees typically have a lot more free time, given that they're no longer working or they're working fewer hours. John also shared earlier that the definition of retirement for some folks means having the flexibility to move to a more desirable work arrangement. So that's another question you may want to reflect on. If you'd like to continue to work in retirement, what type of work would you do if money wasn't as much of a consideration? And how soon can you potentially move to that type of work? As you start to crystallize your vision in retirement, you'll want to be sure to discuss your vision with your partner or loved ones to avoid surprises or contention down the road. And if you're already retired, it's not too late to redefine it. Reflect on how retirement is going for you. Is it what you thought it was going to be? And if not, are there new things that you would like to try?
One of the other findings from our research is that retirement planning isn't just about finances anymore. John, why do you think that is?
You know, at some point, finances kind of become like electricity, if you will, right? They're necessary, but oftentimes we don't give a lot of thought as to where that energy comes from, but what gets us excited is what it does. So when we think about beyond just the financial piece, there are 3 questions that MIT says are actually predictive of our future quality of life. And some of them touch on some of the things that Catherine just mentioned. One of the questions is, who's going to change your light bulbs? They talk about that question because it's about the home that you intend to live in. Will that home be both comfortable and also safe, not just into our early 70s, our 80s, 90s, or perhaps beyond? The second question they ask is, how will I get an ice cream cone? You know, as we live longer, we greatly increase the odds that we may lose the ability to drive. And the question is, if you did lose the ability to drive, how would you be able to access those things that are most important to you, the things that make life worth living each and every day? That calls into question the community that you intend to age in and how accessible things are to you. And the last one, which I think is really important, is who will you have lunch with? This is all about your social network. And what we can tell you is that social networks probably much more important to healthy aging than most people give them credit for, because our friends do a couple of really important things for us as we age. They get us up off our sofa, out the door, giving us a place to be and a reason to be there. And secondly, mental stimulation, things to look forward to, a reason to circle that date on the calendar. So 3 questions. Who will change your light bulbs? How will I get an ice cream cone? And who will I have lunch with?
All right. Mary Charles, if retirement planning isn't just about finances anymore, what other considerations should people be thinking about in order to thrive in retirement? And what are some steps they can do to do just that?
Well, finances certainly provide the foundation, and a majority of retirees say that health, family, purpose, and finances are all important to well-being in retirement. Pre-retirees should think about what gives you a sense of fulfillment and how you want to spend your time in retirement. You may want to even consider test driving activities in advance of retiring to see how they suit you. This can help reduce the feelings of disorientation and uncertainty common among many new retirees. In fact, I have pre-retirees in their 50s, actually currently doing this very thing right now. I have some that are making time for some tennis lessons, others are doing sailing lessons, and still others are learning about knitting. So they're all doing these activities either because they've often thought about doing them but never had the time, or they're just trying to see if they're a good fit and see if they want to continue doing them in retirement. Many people forget, as Catherine mentioned earlier, that when you stop working, you have 8 to 9 hours per day to fill with something else. So how are you going to organize your time? 54% of retirees wish they had done a better job of planning for the non-financial aspects of their retirement. So pre-retirees, don't let this be you. For retirees, remember it's not too late to make adjustments. Consider spending more time with family and friends, exploring new activities, volunteering, and or doing continued learning, just to name a few ideas. Since choices can be deeply personal, the important thing is to take some action to find ways to spend your time in retirement that's fulfilling for you. remember to view your retirement years as a new chapter in life in which you could very well spend 20 to 30 years in. Remember, maybe working part-time at a job or volunteering with an organization you love helps give you purpose. Maybe enjoying some physical activity like walking, cycling, fishing with a friend not only helps you deepen your relationship with one another, but also is good for your health.
That's good advice. Catherine, Mary Charles just mentioned health, which I know is at the forefront of many people's minds these days. How does health factor into retirement?
Healthy habits increase longevity and can help you live an active and fulfilling life so that you can actually do the things that you want to do in retirement. In fact, 85% of retirees we surveyed felt that having good physical and mental health were key to living well in retirement. We also found that the biggest worry of both pre-retirees and retirees is the cost of healthcare and long-term care. Yet more than 2/3 of pre-retirees planning to retire in the next 10 years, so they have no idea what their healthcare and long-term care costs will be in retirement.
John, what can pre-retirees and retirees do to get in front of these concerns about health?
It's a good question, Sandy. I would say one thing we talk about quite often is that two of the most important investments that you'll make as you age may not have anything to do with finances. It's investments in your health and investments in your relationships, because if you get either one of them wrong, or you're on the unfortunate side of either of those, it can be major life-changing events that occur. So a couple of things, and where I would center my comments here, Sandy, is that social relationship that I mentioned is so important. We're doing just a host of research into that now. You know, friends can do many things that family members don't. I know sometimes people say, well, I've got my family, right? They'll carry me through. Family will be there, but oftentimes friends can fill in those gaps to keep life interesting. They're interested and available in some of the same things that we are. The other thing that I just heard Mary Charles talk about was about getting involved in new activities. And what we say there is put yourself in an uncomfortable situation from time to time. Try new things. At least if unsuccessful, you'll know the things that you don't like, but you may come away from those experiences with new relationships that can blossom into new activities, new things to do, new people to talk to. It's especially important because everybody knows what they're going to do in the first 6 months of retirement. But I want you to imagine a Tuesday 4 or 5 years from now. What will it look like? And sometimes that's a stymieing question, but a very important one to think about as we replace an old routine with a number, hopefully, of new routines.
Anything you'd like to add, Mary Charles?
Pre-retirees need to understand how they'll be covered in retirement and the amount they may need to cover their costs, including long-term care. The amount you need will depend on several factors, such as your age at retirement, your overall health, your family history, and where you live. Depending on your current healthcare plan, you may also be able to save for healthcare through a health savings account, which can provide triple tax savings when used for qualified healthcare expenses. Retirees should review your healthcare and long-term care coverage annually to ensure it continues to meet your needs, even if you're enrolled in Medicare. You'll also want to continue to evaluate your living arrangements to ensure you have the right mix of independence, available care, and social connections for you, especially as you enter your later retirement years. And whether you're a pre-retiree or retiree, taking steps to improve your health can enhance your well-being in retirement, whether you're young or old. In fact, taking steps to improve one's health was among retirees' favorite activities in retirement.
Yeah, that's certainly true. Catherine, we talk about this a lot at Edward Jones, preparing for the unexpected. How does this relate to retirement?
Well, I think we all know that life doesn't always go according to plan. And there are some things that could impede your ability to achieve your retirement goals that may be outside your control. For example, retiring earlier than planned can happen for a variety of reasons: illness or disability, caring for a loved one, a layoff. And if this happens, it would likely reduce the years you earn and save and could force you to tap into your retirement savings early. Some other events that could put your retirement off track include temporary job loss, loss of a spouse, unexpected expenses, market downturns, and one we are all feeling right now, inflation. John, what would you add?
Sure, Catherine. So what I would add is, yes, there's a need for a certain amount of specificity when it comes to retirement planning. Oftentimes when we start the process, we have very lofty goals, but we don't really think specifically about what they mean. So I'll give you an example that's borne out by our research. MIT did a study where we asked about 1,000 people to each give us 5 individual words to describe life after they left their primary career. And as you can imagine, many of the same words came up over and over again. In fact, only 10 words made up about 33% of all of those responses. Words like happy, relax, fulfilled, all positively biased, all very much in common. However, as you just mentioned, sometimes there are things we don't anticipate, or if we thought a little bit harder about them. Will I be called to provide care to someone in my family? Will I start a new business or a second career? Will I be volunteering my time? So on and so forth. In fact, one of the things I often tell folks that we talk to is, I want you to think for a moment, not about retirement or investing. I want you to think about putting together a jigsaw puzzle. And if I asked you what the most important first step would be, what would you say? Many people say, find the corners, find the straight edges. Some people won't answer. They know I'm asking a trick question. And it is a trick question because those are important first steps, but not the most important first step, which is you have to look at the picture on the box, right? Once you understand what the picture looks like, you can begin to put those pieces together so that the image comes out. Now, some people say if you look at the picture, that's cheating. I say if you don't look at the picture, that's insane. So getting an idea of what that picture looks like, and here's where I'll add, Catherine, using your financial advisor to help you clarify what the picture on your box looks like, because oftentimes advisors have experiences with other people who may have experienced the same kind of life transitions that you're experiencing today. So that's something I think to keep in mind.
Mary Charles, as Catherine mentioned, some of these things are outside of our control. So how can pre-retirees and retirees prepare for the unexpected as it relates to retirement?
Yeah, pressure testing your retirement strategy as a pre-retiree and as a retiree is vitally important. Pre-retirees should work with their financial advisor to pressure test their retirement strategy for different scenarios and to develop strategies to mitigate their risks. The most common thing I see that derails retirement savings is healthcare. People are unprepared for the continued rising costs of healthcare and are surprised at what Medicare does not cover. Working with a financial advisor can not only help you prepare for these situations, but also can help you put a strategy in place for paying for them. A retiree's vision can still be derailed, so you will want to continue to work with your financial advisor to pressure test your strategy for the risks relevant to you. You'll also want to monitor your spending and regularly review your strategy to help ensure you don't outlive your assets. You may need to stay flexible with your spending during down markets or periods of high inflation. Additionally, it's important to have funded the different savings and investment buckets so that they are available to you in retirement. By having money in all of the buckets, retirees have choices of where to pull money from to meet their spending needs. Depending on the situation, it may make sense to pull from one bucket over the others, whether we're in higher tax brackets, dealing with high medical expenses, low market return, unexpected early retirement due to health, disability, or layoff, just to name a few. Working with a financial advisor can help you prepare for unexpected situations and have a strategy in place for if and when those situations arise.
Good point. John, any further lessons that we can take from today's retirees?
So yeah, what I would say is it's important to think about what we've observed as we've lived. A lot of people base their concept of retirement on what we've experienced through our parents and our grandparents. So taking a fresh look at it, but in that look, we say be a little bit realistic. One of the things that oftentimes gets overlooked are any family responsibilities that you may have, especially from a caregiving standpoint. Need you to think about the role that you play in your family. Might you be called upon to provide care for a parent, a spouse, a sibling, a friend, perhaps a child, or even today, a grandchild, right? Given how long we're living and how family dynamics are changing, thinking about our role in our family is a really, really important part about planning that retirement. The other thing I would add is that whether it's friends, family, people that you know who retired maybe a few years earlier than you did, maybe a long time before you. And also when you're talking to your financial advisor, asking their opinion on the same thing. Of the people that you know in my situation who are thinking about retiring, thinking about selling their business, thinking about whatever it might be, are there a couple of things that you could learn that if they had to do it all over again, that they would definitely do differently? Or are there a few things that if they had to do it over again, they wouldn't change a thing? See, that kind of insight is outside of the investment portfolio, but that kind of insight is so valuable in helping us, as I said earlier, kind of clarify the picture on our box. So that's what I would add, Cindy.
Yeah, it makes sense. Catherine, Mary Charles, any final thoughts from you to share with today's audience on making the most of this new chapter in your life?
Yes, I know we've said it a few times already today, but I can't stress enough the importance of saving as early as possible. Even if you aren't sure what you want out of retirement, saving early will give you greater flexibility to do what you want to do down the road. Really take the time to reflect on what you want out of your next chapter, and don't make any assumptions about whether it's possible or not. Work with your financial advisor to run the numbers. If you don't plan to retire at all, you do still need to prepare for that possibility because it may not be your decision. And finally, focus on what you can control and stay flexible. There are a lot of things outside our control, and it can be overwhelming, even scary at times. But if you prepare for these unexpected events, if you focus on what's within your control, and if you stay flexible, it will really help you manage and navigate through those more challenging times.
Yeah, just to echo what Catherine said, for pre-retirees, start early. Talk to your retired family members and friends. Ask them what they feel like they did right and what did they do wrong with their financial strategies. What, if anything, would they have done differently? What strategies helped them the most to live the retirement that they wanted? Also, regularly review your strategies with your financial advisor to ensure they're still working for you. For retirees, encourage your family members to start saving and investing early. Share examples of what you got right and what you wish you would have done differently and why. Share how both the things you got right and the things you got wrong have impacted your life today. It can't be stated enough. Stay flexible with your spending, and just like pre-retirees, regularly review your strategies with your financial advisor to ensure they're still working for you.
Great information today from all of you. Thank you so much for your insight. As I mentioned earlier, we have several resources that we hope will help you during this time. Be sure to check them out by going to the resource icon on your screen. We're now going to start the Q&A portion of the program. We have a team of subject matter experts waiting online to answer your questions through the Q&A widget. Please remember that there will not be any video during this portion. You will only see a slide prompting you that the Q&A is now in session, but rest assured the webinar is still live. We're going to do our best to answer your questions during the allotted time. If your question is not answered, though, please follow up with your Edward Jones financial advisor. If you don't have an Edward Jones financial advisor, please click on the Find an FA widget below. I also want to remind you that this broadcast will be available again on demand using the same link you used to register for today's program. Please note our upcoming webinar as well. Thanks again for joining us, and please enjoy the rest of your day.